Cristobal and myself. Vamos a hacer una ronda en Perú.
Hi everybody, here it's Claudia. Then we have Jorge, who you already know. Also Cesar from Peru Educa. Patricia and Hugo from the Technological Office in Peru. In the ministry.
Si quieren poner
Para que nos vean. Pero yo creo que la cámara está allá.
Jorge, Hugo,
Patricia.
Okay. Y
Patricia
ahora,
Rubio and Hugo Sumaeta. Patricia Rubio and Hugo Sumaeta, they are from the OTIC, the Office for Technology, Information and Communication. And we are the technical team in the Ministry of Education.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And Carla.
Hi, in Costa Rica, there's 3 people here at Gaby's office. It's me, Gaby, Oscar, and Ronnie and Catherine are online too, but they're connected remotely.
Okay. And who are the 2 that are online? ¿Quién está en línea?
India.
Ronnie
Okay.
and Catherine, part of Gaby's team.
Okay, perfecto. Perfecto. Y tenemos algunas colegas del otro países, creo. Vamos a hacer una ronda. Tenemos del team de Colombia también. Tenemos Camilo. Tenemos Jorge and Nathan. Yeah, is that the team? Jorge, is that the team from Colombia? And Nicolás. Okay.
It's a big crowd.
Okay. Y también tenemos Prati. We have Prati, who's in our Delhi office. Prati, anybody else? You and Kumar, right? Or together?
It's late for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kumar is
Might not
on
be
the
in the
call.
office. He might be at
And
home.
from HTEP,
yeah.
it's Deepika. It's Deepika, Hita, and Monica. Yeah.
Late night.
I tell you the
I know.
India crew is dedicated. Thank you for showing up. And Ronnie, who's Ronnie?
Full house from our side.
Full house from India.
Yeah.
Who is Ronnie?
Ronnie is from Costa Rica, from our team. Ronnie
Okay,
and
great.
Catherine.
Great. Okay, Veronica. I'm just trying to make sure and Catherine. Okay, got it. And Juliana, do you want to introduce yourself? Yeah.
Hugo. Hugo is asking if he can record the session.
See, yeah, no problem. Okay, and then we have who did I just say? Juliana. Juliana, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Juliana. I work in the DC office, and I'm just interested in these subjects. And I'll be working with Costa Rica soon. So.
Okay. I think that's everybody. Is there anybody who was not mentioned who is on the call with us today? Okay. So we are also expecting a colleague from Colombia, possibly from Peru, who is another colleague from Peru who is Chiro, who is in Lima, are moving to Lima soon. And then a colleague from Brazil. So they might come on during the course of the discussion. So this was kind of the second discussion that we're having. We call it Ask Me Anything on the technical side, taking advantage of Pramod being here in Washington with us, and a little bit maybe more fresh and alert than his colleagues in India at the moment. Vamos a aprovechar la presencia del Pramod que está con nosotros acá en Washington y que me imagino es un poco más alerto que sus colegas en India. Vamos. Entonces, tenemos 3 países y yo lo que quiero hacer es dar cada uno una oportunidad de explicar dónde están con su proceso de desarrollar el piloto. Y una pregunta al principio y vamos a hacer otra ronda de preguntas. Y queremos aprovechar para que se pueda aprender de sí mismo también entre los países.
I just want to double check that. Are you recording actually?
Oh, no, I'm not recording,
Okay.
but I should. Okay. Okay. Now we're recording. Okay.
Entonces, grabando.
So what I was saying is that we have 3 countries. We want to do a round to have them introduce kind of where they are with their pilots, just to kind of give a perspective.
Yes.
And then maybe one question for the first round. And we want to take advantage of the fact that the 3 countries are online to also learn from each other. So let's start with Peru since they're on the screen. Arrancamos con Peru.
Ok, bien, primero en español, luego autotraducción a inglés. ¿Les parece? Sí.
Help you with the translation.
He can,
Yeah.
he will translate.
Ok, entonces, como habíamos comentado en la sesión, una de las sesiones previas, en Perú, este prototipo al cual llegamos en el taller de la India ha sufrido de alguna forma transformaciones desde que nos encontramos al regresar al ministerio una iniciativa por parte de la Secretaría de Planificación Estratégica para implementar un plan digital que involucraba diversas oficinas dentro del ministerio. Entonces, lo que estamos haciendo ahora es trasladar las reflexiones y los aprendizajes del taller de la India y del prototipo finalmente hacia este nuevo plan digital. Hay muchas cosas. Bien, entonces, in English, when we arrived from India after the workshop that we have there, we didn't have the chance to transmit the prototype that we achieved in the workshop. So why? Because the secretaries for strategic planification have this vision for make this digital plan that involves different areas, different offices and directorates in the ministry. So what we are doing now is transferring the learnings and the prototype to these new projects, including and focusing on Peru Educa version 4, meaning this evolution from Peru Educa. So we are at this point now. We are having these sessions with this team, replicating, more than replicating is transferring the knowledge that we had in India workshop. For this, I have to make a special special thanks to Iñaki because I'm using his notes as a guidance. Thank you. So we are with this replication, we are having new knowledge that is being putting on the table from these members of the team. So we are at this point right now. We have 3 more sessions to go for this first phase.
3 more what?
3 more sessions.
So the replicating
have
workshop.
3 more sessions for transferring the knowledge, and then we will have. We were going to make this like a project. We're going to have objectives, but not only for Peru Educa. We think that in general, the Office for Information and Technology are going to take this learning and use it in the architecture of information in the whole ministry. So this is what we are now standing.
Perfect. So I think that's a good kind of introduction. And I think one of the things that we want to delve a little bit deeper into, maybe to learn from you, is, a big piece of this that we've talked about, that it's not about the technology, it's not about Sunbird, it's about kind of trying to kind of change your mindset to look at digital infrastructure, or we might call it open educational architectures. There might be whatever word kind of resonates. But moving away from procuring solutions to building the base architecture or infrastructure for others to create solutions. So it'll be interesting when we come back to you, Peru, to kind of understand your challenges of transmitting, what was a very intense learning session in Bangalore to the rest of the ministry. But let's hold on to that. Para traducirlo, estaba diciendo que eso es un tema muy importante, que el proceso de Perú para levantar el conocimiento de este asunto, para cambiar la mentalidad entre adquirir soluciones a construir la infraestructura o arquitectura para que otros se pueda crecer las soluciones. Y eso, trata mucho porque allá hay 80 sistemas, ¿no? Ya corriendo en Perú, algo así. Y es un cambio en lo que se puede tener la mentalidad de cambiar esta manera de funcionar en aprovechar un base común para los sistemas. Por eso que este proceso de cómo han trasladado el conocimiento de Bangalore al ministerio para que otros dentro de la burocracia tienen este conocimiento es muy importante. Okay, let me stop there and shift to Costa Rica, just to kind of share where they are. Costa Rica.
Hola. See, I'm gonna translate after Gaby talks.
Okay.
Okay. Bueno, aquí en Costa Rica lo que nosotros hemos estado haciendo es experimentar una posible instalación de Sunbird en nuestros servidores y para luego continuar con las exploraciones. También se exploró la parte en español con los accesos que nos facilitaron. Y aquí, bueno, mi compañero les puede contar un poquito con mayor detalle qué fue lo que se hizo y hasta dónde llegamos. Okay, so here after they got back from Bangalore, voy a poner un poco más de contexto. There were a little bit of changes inside the ministry, and Gaby is now in charge of the area where the project is going to be, and she has a new team. But we met yesterday with Rafa, so we are keeping in contact with the other part of the ministry working with the topic. And they have started experimenting with the Sunbird installation and with the link that they provided with the Spanish instance. And Oscar will say something.
Nosotros revisamos la documentación e intentamos dos formas de instalación. Una de los servidores nuestros, y al ver los requerimientos nos dimos cuenta de que no cumplían los requisitos. Particularmente nos vimos en problemas cuando se habla de la necesidad de un servidor en Azure, cuando no disponemos. Entonces por ahí dejamos la instalación de servidores propios sin terminar. También intentamos, recuerdo que vimos hacer una instalación en un servidor local utilizando Node.js. Sin embargo,
entonces es como en pedacitos. Okay, they tried they revised the documentation and they tried two ways to install to do some testing. In their server, they were not able to do it because they don't have Azure, so they were not able to do it that way. And with their local service, Node.js.
Okay, no, creo... Okay, sigue.
Iba a terminar con el Node.js, que no sé si hicimos algo mal, pero al hacer la instalación comenzó a pedirnos dependencias que se supone ya estaban y poníamos nuevamente la dependencia usando npm pero una vez instalada nos pedía ya otra que era anterior, entonces entramos como en un ciclo donde poner una dependencia nos pedía otra y nosotros sabíamos que ya estaba, pero seguía solicitando, entonces también descartamos las pruebas con Node.js.
Bob, I don't know if you can translate that better. I don't know how to translate dependencia.
So they didn't succeed installing the
Módulos,
servers
Okay.
because it's requesting information which they didn't have. And they weren't sure what was
Yeah. So do you guys catch that? That they okay. You can do this maybe louder for the.
No, no, fine. So well, you succeed in installation in the server, and you keep receiving requests of information that you didn't have, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So this is, I mean, another important theme. I mean, apart from kind of the Peru case of raising awareness, transferring knowledge, there's just the practical, technical capacity and implementation capacity, as well as I think some of the bureaucracy of just getting access to a server, trying to sort out whether you should use the free version of Azure or you request access to a server within the ministry. So all of just the technical pieces of getting set up, I think, is something that is important to take note of. Que solo estaba diciendo que eso es otro tema muy importante que la capacidad técnica, no solo en términos de arrancar con una instancia del Sunbird, pero también toda la burocracia dentro del ministerio para tener aprobación para usar un servidor de Azure o lo que sea. Para eso, para entender mejor cuáles son los desafíos, ¿no? de capacidad técnica y capacidad burocracia, digamos. Let's move to Colombia. Colombia is a different case in the sense that we have a question?
Yeah, Bob, excuse me. Lo que quería decir es que tal vez les podemos decir que llegamos a la conclusión de que efectivamente no tenemos la capacidad técnica para poder instalarlo aquí. Pero vamos a volver al tema técnico.
May not have the technical capacity to install it here.
To install backend, no?
To install it there.
Oh, to install it there.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
But we can go back to those technicalities, right?
Yes, Carla is asking if
Yeah, we will come back to these technical. I'm just trying to get an overview of the issues. So, and I think this fits well. So in Colombia, I'm gonna ask the team to talk about their experience. This is a different case in that with a project internal to the bank that we're developing a platform for universities in Colombia to test blockchain technologies for conditional cash transfer. The team has been kind of rolling up their sleeves and kind of trying to mirror the experience in the ministries to kind of understand what are the technical issues. So let me, and I know that there were a number of issues that came up. So let me pass the floor to maybe Jorge to start, and the other teammates can kind of chime in on kind of the experience so far in setting up an instance, some of these challenges with the APIs, some of the challenges with the size of the code, some of the challenges with the cost for the instance that they were developing. So, lo que estaba diciendo es que vamos a pedir al equipo de Colombia, que es un ejemplo distinto en lo que estamos desarrollando un piloto dentro del banco para universidades en Colombia para usar Sunbird para una instancia de usar la tecnología para desarrollar habilidades. Y voy a pedir al Jorge y el equipo de Colombia para compartir un poco más sobre su experiencia porque creo que han tenido más tiempo en el lado técnico en instalar una instancia. Pero hay asuntos del costo, del tamaño, del claves API. Por eso que voy a pedir a Jorge para describir su experiencia y los otros de su equipo que está trabajando en ese proyecto. Okay. Ok, perfecto. Entonces tenemos algunas preguntas ya sobre la mesa. Y no lo sé si vamos a otra ronda. Do you want to do another round or do you want to address, how do you want to handle the...
We can go through the questions straight away. I think.
Straight away.
Yeah.
Ok, bueno, con este ronda de preguntas creo que está bien porque es muy similar que en Costa Rica han tenido problemas en la instalación del sistema. En Colombia han tenido un poco más éxito, pero todavía habían algunos desafíos en términos de capacidad, costo y uso del API. Por eso que, yeah, sí. Otra
Sorry,
pregunta.
Jorge has some questions, but he hasn't he hasn't mentioned them yet. So maybe he can mention now or later.
You go ahead and later now.
Great.
No, go ahead now, Jorge, yeah.
Okay. Also, before the questions, here in Peru, we are starting to experimenting and exploring the implementation of Sunbird. Hugo is the one. Hugo and Patricia are the ones that are experimenting with this, and they are taking note of every word that you are talking about that. So it's really good.
They are from William's office.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're working with William. So the questions that we have is, do you have any previous experience migrating contents from other platforms to Sunbird deployments? For example, migrating from Moodle or Dokeos or Chamilo to a Sunbird deployment? If so, do you have any documentation on that can share with us? That's the first question. Second question, have you made functionality comparison between Moodle and Sunbird? And this question is really narrowed to our Peru Educa's experience. Peru Educa's virtual classrooms are in Moodle. So if we are looking forward for the possibility to migrate to Sunbird, we want to know if you have made a comparison at that point. Another question, really narrowed, is the Sunbird supports SCORM. This is standard for courses, SCORM. Yeah. Another one is it possible for this team to see a demo of OpenWrap? When we were in India, you showed us how OpenWrap worked. I cannot replicate that here. Is any possibility that you can show us a demo of OpenWrap, a video maybe or something?
Is this for offline usage?
Yeah, yes, exactly, for offline scenarios. Then about Colombia experience, we see that Colombia is really forward in this implementation and your experience. We would like to know more about Colombia experience, and if it's possible for the technical team to have a demo user to explore what they are deploying. Just asking. And then the last one is actually the question that I made the last session, but I think that we were lost in translation. Why? Because I see in the documentation that you actually have a lesson plan module in Sunbird, and that was the question in the last session. But I asked if you have a curriculum classroom plan tool. But what actually we are looking in Peru Educa to implement right now is a lesson plan tool. So the question is that, does Sunbird have a lesson plan module or microservice? If so, we would like to explore intensively in that line so we can implement it in Peru ASAP. That's it.
Okay. Maybe we can go through it and then maybe Costa has some follow-up questions. So
Yeah,
I can,
so we'll
maybe
go.
we can finish this first.
You want to just answer these first?
Sure.
Or do you want to go to Costa Rica?
Or works for you?
It's you, you have to keep all this.
I'm writing down the list.
Ok, vamos a lo que estaba diciendo Promote, es si terminamos la ronda para hacer otra a Costa Rica, a ver si tienen otras preguntas, porque como Perú no han tenido la oportunidad de preguntar.
Specific questions.
Una pregunta específica.
Ok. ¿Preguntas? Sí.
Sí, una es, no sé si ya la hicieron, pero queríamos saber si el uso de Azure es estrictamente necesario o si es una opción, ¿verdad? Si hay otra posibilidad que no sea Azure, porque si es con Azure ya para saberlo y estar seguros y ya no volver a preguntar. De momento sería eso. Bueno, también nos gustaría conocer un poco cómo funciona el tema de bases de datos, porque ha sido algo invisible para nosotros hasta ahora, por curiosidad un poco y también para entender un poco el código fuente. Queremos saber cómo trabajan el tema de bases de datos, qué tecnologías usan.
We would like to know which databases do you use, what is the technology that you have for this?
And if the use of Azure is strictly necessary.
Okay, 2 questions.
Okay.
I don't know, Bob, I don't know if Ronnie wants to add anything or if he's okay.
Ronnie?
Sí, mi pregunta es si se puede utilizar Amazon Web Services en vez de Azure.
You got that, you don't need a translation.
Yeah. Can we use AWS instead of
You're
Azure?
right, exactly. Very good.
Okay. ¿Algo más de Costa Rica? Okay, and let me just ask Nathan to see, Nathan, did you have any other questions or did Jorge cover them in the first round?
Yeah, I have a couple. Thanks,
Okay.
everybody. Good to talk to you. Let's see. So philosophically, we want, just as a preface, philosophically, we want to use as much as Sunbird as possible. And then, piggyback some of the things that relate to Evoke from a gamification standpoint and blockchain integration. So that being said, we have a requirement for teams, and so I think I saw somewhere that users are actually sub-organizations, so it kind of works all the way up. And so just wondering what your recommendation is for how to approach teams.
Teams.
Equipos, teams, yeah. We have a requirement for a review process, which is much like a teacher saying, "Hey, this gets a 1 or a 5 or an A or a B."
Assessment.
Yep, assessment.
It is nasty.
We want to know if there's a basic counter system, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, as a way to use it for a simple point system associated with topics, perhaps, with a course. One of the questions that Jorge mentioned is when we pilot in the spring, we'll have no more than 250 users. So we're just curious if we can use the Sunbird, the Sunbird instance that you're already hosting. Let's see. And then there's a couple of lower level. We want to determine use smart contracts as a way to, document the conditional cash transfer. And so we're wondering if you see any issues in using telemetry data as a source for that. Example is a user completes a course, it goes into telemetry that they completed it, it gets assessed, and they get a good grade. It goes into telemetry. Then we have a separate function that looks in that database, pulls the telemetry in, says, okay, it meets those requirements. We press a button and it goes into blockchain. that's what I have.
Ok, déjame hacer una traducción para los otros sobre las 4 preguntas de Nathan. El primero es en la aplicación que estamos desarrollando con las universidades. Los estudiantes van a trabajar en equipo. Tenemos que tener una metodología para agrupar los estudiantes en equipos. Y la pregunta es si hay una función para equipos. El otro es para la asesoría de las actividades de los estudiantes. La pregunta es si hay un sistema de puntos, de contar puntos, como una manera, si una profesor dar 10 puntos a una actividad, se puede usar la tecnología. El tercero es, este piloto que vamos a hacer con 5 universidades será más o menos 250 personas, estudiantes, por eso no es muy grande. Y la pregunta es si se puede usar la instancia del Sunbird en vez de replicar la instancia en Colombia. Y la última es, en esta iteración, trata del asunto de la transferencia de recursos condicionalmente a los estudiantes. Por su presencia en un curso, para sus actividades, para competir actividades con calidad, etc. Y estamos usando el blockchain tecnología para un contrato listo, digamos, para que se pueda definir los resultados al principio. Y la pregunta es si se puede usar la función de telemetría para sacar las actividades de los estudiantes para alimentar los contratos listos, digamos. Okay.
All right.
All right. let's do
Let's
it.
recall to you too, Bob.
Okay, so I'm going through the first question to Peru. I think Tim asked that. Previous experience in bringing content from other platforms. So a couple of things happened. I think the Infosys team who took Sunbird, the core, Sunbird kernel, and built their own user interface. They had multiple imports and linking from not only from their previous learning management systems, some of them proprietary, some of them internal, some of them on videos lying around, and they also have integration with Coursera, for example, live on Sunbird. So they have this company-wide subscription for employees, and some of them are public for all employees, some of them are team-specific. So if you are a manager, senior manager, then you have access to Harvard Business Review, for example, all the HBR articles. They brought all that content and actually indexed on Sunbird. And the Sunbird, their version of Sunbird is called Lex. I don't know that you saw that. Maybe we can get you them to do a demo for you. So just to reimagine what a Sunbird kernel could actually do. But it's a little bit of work though. But the good part is that the Sunbird part of the content is extremely metadata driven and API driven. That means as long as the other system, let's say your Moodle or any other previous LMS you may have, if they allow you to export using an API, and then if the structure of the data, there's content format. So content format could be a video, PDF, audio file, or any standard MIME types. They're called MIME types, right? Standard MIME type. Plus the metadata around the content. Who created it? What's the title? What's the description? What are the tags for searching? And all that thing is metadata. If you can extract that data from the other system, it's extremely easy to import that into Sunbird. A lot of times we are seeing that the older systems are not that easy to get to because some of the older content management system written in PHP or many other systems, not everything is fully API. So you have to hack a little bit through that system to get given a content ID, can you get a content plus the metadata easily? If you can get it out of the other system, you can get into Sunbird very easily because Sunbird, everything is only API driven, right? Everything is a microservice driven, so it's easy to import. And Infosys is a good example that we can get you to chat to them and they will walk you through, and I'm very sure they may be even happy to share some utility code or whatever. They were actually very open to open sourcing a lot of that utility as well into the Sunbird ecosystem. So happy to connect and make sure you can give it a try. And I think the best way to learn is try it out. So you just try few different types of content and get a sense of what it means. But my gut feel from Moodle to Sunbird should be pretty automatable. I think I don't see any reason why any human being need to be in the middle once you write the script.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's that.
No, I think we should do a little translate. Okay, voy a intentar y Iñaki, Cristóbal, los otros nativos me apoyan, ¿no?
Perfecto.
Bueno, es que hay un ejemplo con Infosys y su plataforma Lex, que han hecho tenían mucho legacía en su propio sistema, que han usado herramientas para trasladar y mover el código en Sunbird. Por ejemplo, hay una integración con Coursera. Y es posible que se pueda compartir el código en forma abierta. Lo más importante es que Sunbird usa metadata y API. Y si el sistema se dejan exportar esta información, debe ser bastante fácil. A veces hay más control en el formato y no es tan fácil llegar a la información porque todo no es del API, digamos. No sé, eso es lo que...
Sí. El resumen básico es que si se puede extraer en el sistema previo que teníais, si se puede extraer la metadata y se puede extraer el contenido, y pone el ejemplo de que Moodle debería ser sencillo y una vez que se tiene un script que no haría falta que hubiese ningún intermediario humano entre medias, se exportaría relativamente fácil la información, en este caso de Moodle a Sunbird. Y ha puesto el ejemplo de Infosys y de que estaría encantado de conectar con Infosys y que ellos hicieran una demo de cómo lo han hecho o explicaran un poco más.
So this is an important point because I think a lot of our client countries have used Moodle because it's open source as a content learning management system. Yeah. So I think there are a lot of courses that have been developed on Moodle. Yeah. And I think this is a specific case where it'd be interesting to see whether Moodle has begun to think themselves about adapting to a microservices architecture.
Yeah, good question.
Whether
Their APIs appear to be pretty awesome on the surface, Bob.
The Moodle APIs.
Yeah, they look.
Okay.
On the surface, they look great.
Okay.
A Nathan just share, acaba de compartir para los que estéis conectados en Webex un enlace a esa información de Moodle y las APIs. Nathan, that you just share in the chat is linked to Moodle and the core APIs.
So that's my next question. Anyway, that's the next question. I think, have you compared Moodle and Sunbird and how do you differentiate or where are the commonalities?
Yeah, so this maybe you can take up this question, the comparison of Moodle and Sunbird. Yeah. And also, from a perspective of somebody who's invested in a platform. Yeah. Oh, why should I translate everything into Sun? So maybe address that because and how they think about actually beginning to do that integration.
Sure. Yeah, I think philosophically, the fundamental difference between Moodle and Sunbird is built as an infrastructure and not as a solution first. So we didn't know whether we'll end up building a mobile app for kids or, teacher portal later and so on. We didn't know where we were going in India, and we still are in the journey. And I'm very sure in the next 2 years, 3 years, India will navigate across the states and syllabuses and languages, all kinds of learning experiences that we would have to build. So, given the fact that we were not building a solution, it's a fundamental philosophical difference. So when you build an infrastructure, you are only building an extremely unbundled components, pieces of the puzzle, not knowing how your finished house will look like. You're building bricks and you're building some window sills and you're looking some, figuring it out, saying that eventually I'll build a house. And the house might look this way today, but the house can completely look different 2 years later or 3 years later, given how the entire lifelong learning is taking on in the world with connectivity, mobile phones, Alexa. See, I can speak to a computer. So much more disruption going on. We don't know how the children are going to learn in 2025 or 2030. So given that, we were always going bottom up, not a top-down solutioning. But obviously, when you're on the periphery, on the surface, when you look at a Moodle portal or a Sunbird portal, it look like, it's very similar. You can manage content, you can manage people, you can manage lesson plan, you can manage reasonable workflow, curation and some other workflow, and it's pretty good. So I would really, really request you to think about what you want to do in terms of, are you laying an infrastructure for education for the country, or are you building a specific solution that you're building? Second question, actually related one, is that you already have a Moodle instance, and some of you already have invested in Moodle. There is a lot of possibility, since both are microservices based and both are API based. If you're adventurous enough, you can say, you know what, the core content management and the experience layer, which is a portal and the mobile app. I don't think Moodle has an offline capability and all that thing, but it doesn't matter. I mean, given that they're developing one. Yeah, they're probably developing one and so on. You could use that as the solution, even now, Moodle, but use, for example, pieces from the Sunbird where Moodle is a supplementary. Like, for example, the entire telemetry infrastructure, entire registry infrastructure, entire credentialing infrastructure that we are putting together, right? Where these have to be unbundled and not, but for example, if a teacher, I'm actually maybe difficult to translate for you guys at the end of the day. I'm a bit too much. I mean, I could go on.
No, I know. It's okay. We have it, I think.
So I think the first point, okay, maybe you can translate. Okay. Some of you have it.
Okay.
First point, I want to just close it, then I can go to the next one, is that there is a difference between where we came from. We were building infrastructure and later allowing all kinds of solutions for skilling industries, solution for K-12, solution for teacher training, solution for capacity building, like bureaucrats are going to use Sunbird. So it's all kinds of solutions are emerging out of the same stack, whereas Moodle probably built for learning management and is very well built and open source and everything else. So that's a fundamental philosophical differences.
Okay. Pero la primera pregunta sobre la diferencia entre Moodle y Sunbird, que es fundamentalmente a la filosofía, ¿no? Que Moodle fue construido como una solución para un sistema de manejo de aprendizaje. Y Sunbird fue construido como infraestructura, como partes, como ladrillos del casa, que se puede construir cualquier solución. Por eso que al final del día, cuando ves a Diksha, que es una solución que está construido con los ladrillos de Sunbird, podría ser muy similar al Moodle, pero es una filosofía distinta porque Moodle ha empezado con la solución que fue construido para una solución específica.
Okay?
¿Está bien?
Everybody sounds
Okay.
good. Everybody looks happy
Yes.
with the translation. Okay.
So, Jorge, you can also correct anything I say that's incorrect. Okay.
Okay. And the second point, and it's also important to understand, is that pieces Sunbird could act pieces of Sunbird, like registry infrastructure, credentialing infrastructure, telemetry infrastructure, could be quite supplementary to a large-scale system, a LMS system, or a non-LMS system. Like Moodle could act as a online learning. Somebody could build a classroom, a smart class device registry. And if some education department wants, and in India, we have a large project called Operation Digital Blackboard, it's like ODB. Across the state, they're investing in upgrading the digital infrastructure, physical infrastructure of the classroom. When that happens, they need to build a device registry, and they want to build content streaming through that device registry, which is both controlled and offline available. They can actually use Sunbird, many pieces of Sunbird to achieve that. Whereas Moodle simply will not cut there, that kind of an environment, because Moodle is a very specific purpose. So the breadth of application an education department can go with Sunbird pieces of the puzzle is very high. In Gujarat, for example, in one of the states in India, they're building entire credentialing, electronic credentialing architecture, which is digital certificates and credentials and teacher badges and all that thing, using Sunbird's credentialing module, which is completely disconnected from content. It has nothing to do with content. It is Nathan's earlier question, which I will get to at the end. Can telemetry trigger a direct money transfer? Right? How do you integrate such pieces of the puzzle, saying that teacher finished something in LMS, generated telemetry, generated digital certificate, moved money?
Okay, let's hold that thought. Vamos a parar ahí. Do you want to try this one?
Yes, I can try and you can.
Okay. Let me start, because then I'll pass to you. Porque creo que es muy importante esta idea del tener una infraestructura en vez de solución. Es muy importante para el pace of change, ¿cómo se dice? El ritmo de cambio, que es mucho más fácil y flexible, incluye nuevos componentes a infraestructura que manejar una solución que ya está hecha. Eso es un primer punto. Pero es parte de esta idea que se puede ser complementario, ¿no? Que se puede usar el parte de Sunbird que trate de registros o de telemetría, por ejemplo, para complementar o suplementar partes del LMS del Moodle.
Sí, básicamente es eso. Entonces, antes también Pramod ha dicho que lo importante es que cada equipo piense, nosotros qué queremos hacer. ¿Queremos una solución específica o queremos construir una infraestructura que habilite la aparición de varias? Entonces ha puesto el ejemplo de que se puede suplementar o complementar lo que Moodle me puede ofrecer con otros de los bloques que Sunbird puede ofrecer, como el de credenciales, el de telemetría, el de registro, que pueden complementar esa solución específica de gestión de aprendizaje que puede ofrecer Moodle. Entonces, que se pueden usar distintas piezas de Sunbird para tener pues el pack completo, no solamente lo que Moodle puede ofrecer.
But I think this is for the Peru team and Peru Educa, que is built largely on Moodle, if I understand correctly. This will be an important learning process. Is to kind of do that type of analysis of, what are the aspects that you want to keep as Moodle? What are the aspects that you want to supplement and translate? And kind of how you think about that process.
And there's also good. Here also, I think it may not be a bad idea as an action item for Peru Educator team to chat with Infosys team, who's been doing 25 years of very complex training and education and research in their organization. 250,000 people for a large company, so it's like a small country, and they have to deal with changing technology needs and learning and all that thing. And they built their custom system. But they still chose to move Sunbird because of the fundamental flexibility that supercharged them. But of course, it took a while, and they had to compare and contrast. They had invested that internally. So somebody had to ask, why are you moving? What? So it may not be a bad idea to chat with them and saying that, what did you find? And how did you go about doing that evaluation? At the end of the day, if 80% of the needs are satisfied in Moodle, you should look at a supplementary mechanism. That means Moodle plus pieces of the Sunbird as a way to go forward. But if you think, Moodle is purely a content management system and I'm not doing much with it, but I can get bigger upgrade here, you should move fully. Or you can say, what, I'm going to keep Moodle fully and no changes at all, but let me bring registry and credentialing and telemetry on the side, which I can act. These are calls that you will end up making because I think you start writing two things. One, where do you want to go from a larger education digital infrastructure? Where do you see? Sort of brainstorm around that. Second, what is the architecture that allows you to go towards that evolutionary model of learning, with where the country is going? A quick comparison, quick understanding, brainstorming should get you a reasonable. And if you are still uncomfortable, stick with Moodle. Stick with Moodle and supplement with Sunbird. It's okay. It's not a risk at all. So you can even de-risk yourself by using Moodle for a while, behind the scenes, starting to change the chassis and tires. And, one of these days, you won't even know what finally it is Edupeduca. It's not about Moodle. It's not about Sunbird. It's not about some CMS system or a messaging system or a database. It is about your platform that you're building. The shape has to change, and it will keep changing. In every 1 year later, you will see pieces of the puzzle will change. So carefully bring it in, de-risk it, and move forward. And have a chat with Infosys. I think it's worth doing it.
Voy a intentar y Iñaki voy a complementar o suplementar.
Acá también lo podemos complementar si necesitas igual.
Ok, sí, adelante, sí. No,
bueno.
Por favor, Claudia.
Bueno, un poco lo que estaba diciendo Tramoto es que no se trata de Moodle, no se trata de Sunbird. Creo que es un ejercicio que va a ser un ejercicio bastante valioso para todo el equipo, y especialmente para el equipo de Perú Educa, hacer un análisis de qué es lo que tienen ahora, qué es lo que les gustaría cambiar y qué son las cosas que ustedes ven que van a estar cambiando constantemente en los años, ¿no? Porque si es así, entonces sería mejor trabajar en base a una infraestructura y no una solución. Y finalmente no se trata de uno o lo otro, sino de utilizar las complementariedades de ambos. Y si ustedes deciden quedarse con Moodle, porque ya lo han trabajado así, pueden extraer ciertos aspectos de Sunbird y utilizarlos, ¿no? Pero es importante que ustedes el equipo de la DITA y en general todo el equipo técnico, piense y realice estas autorreflexiones que conversamos con Jorge de a dónde es que se ven, ¿no? Más adelante.
Sí, yo sí quisiera comentar algo puntual. Digamos, este es el tipo de reflexiones que yo creo que nos puede llevar, bueno, en lo personal, a mí me motiva muchísimo tener este tipo de reflexiones de que sí, pues no es importante, no importa si es Moodle, no importa si es Sunbird, no importa si es otro. Lo que importa es el proyecto educativo que estamos soportando desde esta plataforma. Y a lo largo de lo que he venido comentando Pramod, creo que estamos en la ruta correcta, en el hecho de que nos damos cuenta que tenemos que construir infraestructura y dejar de pensar en soluciones, simplemente. Las soluciones se van a dar una vez que tengamos la infraestructura ya bien definida, ¿no? Y estamos en ese camino. Me parece sumamente interesante porque flexibiliza las posibilidades que tengamos en nuestras lluvias de ideas como equipo de trabajo, la posibilidad de, si queremos, mantenemos Moodle y vamos implementando otros microservicios que no tenemos y que nos puedan servir, ¿no? O si queremos, migramos, o al tener esta posibilidad de hacer integración a través de APIs del contenido de Moodle en la plataforma de Sunbird, podríamos hacer incluso pilotos de Sunbird en algunos espacios, manteniendo el funcionamiento de Perú Educa en Moodle también, ¿no? Y claro, ciertamente Perú Educa se ha construido de alguna forma tratando de integrar servicios, no microservicios, porque por un lado está Moodle, por otro lado está Liferay, ¿no es cierto? Y por otro lado hemos construido nuestro web service de registro al cual lo integramos con otras plataformas. Entonces, yo creo que esta atomización de funcionalidades y de interacciones en la cual estamos reflexionando nos va a permitir mejorar PeruEduca per se, es decir, independientemente de la tecnología que vayamos a usar en el futuro, las reflexiones que estamos teniendo va a permitir que se mejore. Lo intento en inglés, a ver, y si me complementan por allá. Sí. What I was talking about is complementing the idea, and this is what makes me want to work in these kind of projects, because it's not about the brand or the platform that we're using. It's about the project that we are supporting. Yeah. And I think that we are in the correct route because we are knowing now that it's important to build infrastructure, not the solutions. So that's what we are trying to make with this replication of the workshop. We are now in this technical team working with this, but we are conscious that we have to scale up the learnings that we are having to the high directorates in the ministry to change this mindset that Bob was talking about at the beginning of the meeting. We are changing our mindset in the building of infrastructure, and we want to make this to change in other instances of the ministry. Well, that's it.
La otra parte, solo para comentar muy rápido, es que si están interesados en tener una discusión con el equipo de Infosys, porque es una compañía que lleva 25 años en hacer capacidad interna para 250,000 personas, que es como un sistema de educación misma, han decidido abandonar o transferir de sus sistemas propios a Sunbird para esta idea de la flexibilidad y para tener una habilidad de ajustar de las tecnologías del futuro. E incluso ha dicho Pramod un ejemplo de otro proyecto en Colombia que está pensando en usar Sunbird para smart classrooms, ¿no?
En India.
Aulas
inteligentes.
En India, ¿no? Sí. Y que el parte del registro no es para escuelas o personas, pero herramientas, ¿no?
Okay, and the third one, I think it's very important to understand, is that, and this also relates to your next question about the lesson plan, and so I'll connect to this too. Yeah. Sunbird was built as a very, very generic pieces of infrastructure. So there are only like 4 layers of content hierarchy in one sense. There are assets at the lowest level. Assets are nothing but images, video snippets, icons, or whatever, right? They're all just assets floating around. There are templates, content templates, and various type of what's called a templating, a concept of templating. We template credential, we template content, we can template that. And the layer above that is what we actually call it a content, right? The content is the unit of learning that uses a template and uses a set of assets to build up one unit, tiny unit of learning, a micro learning unit. Then we have a concept called collection above that. All these 4 layers, assets, templates, content, and collection. Collection is any random nested collection of content. Content is the collection of uses a template using a set of assets. So that's the 4 layers, right? It's so generic that you'll be surprised what you can build lesson plans with it, you can build quizzes with it, you can build offline courses with it. for example, we have a concept called a course and a batch, right? The entire course is nothing but a collection. Course is a collection. Lesson plan is a collection. Everything is abstracted into a concept of a collection. And you can create your own types of courses on top of that. We are not determining what it should be called. I think previous AMA, there was a question, can I rename the course? Taxonomy, right? And the reason why I said, yeah, of course, rename is because we don't hard understand that you are actually creating something called a lesson plan. There is no hard coding in the system called lesson plan or a course. Everything is just unit of content and collection of content. And then Infosys, for example, created goals, something called goals for their teams. So you can think of teachers having a learning goal, and goal is represented as a collection. It's very, very interesting how they use the collection API at the bottom to manifest something called a goal, personal learning goal on the user interface. On the user interface, my goals. You'll wonder, where did my goals come from in Sunbird? I have not seen this feature because there's no feature. They simply use the collection API actually to create a new concept called goals. You can create something called lesson plan. And Gujarat, for example, in one of the states is doing hybrid training. Hybrid. So the collection is built in such a way that part of the units are actually online and part of the unit is actually completely done offline, physically, like a lab, right? You have to go and do it. And all these are modelable in Sunbird very easily because there is no hard coding of any nature. There is no understanding that there is something called a course, how an online course will work. Sunbird doesn't assume how an online course will work. We have given you the microservices called collection microservice and a content microservice and an asset microservice to build pretty much. It's your imagination. That's why you should see the latest Lex demo. You'll be blown out in that, how the hell did you build all this? It all looks fancy in the UI, but really at the bottom, they have extensively used collection API to create all kinds of interesting learning goals and my journey and all kinds of interesting things. And asset API they have used to create what's called my gallery or bookmarks. They actually use the asset API for a lot of that. Very interesting. Use it. So it's about imagining what you can do given an API like a Lego block to you. What shapes can you form, right? And second part of that is the unbundling I was talking to you about. It's one thing that in a full solution like a learning management system, maybe Bob has a profile as a teacher, maybe, and the profile shows me what courses I have completed. It's a very common thing to happen, right? In a learning management system, you go to your profile, you can see all your past history of courses. In Sunbird, that entire part is driven through asynchronously or disconnected through telemetry, and then telemetry and credentialing. So the reason why this shows up in the profile is that telemetry is triggering an external microservice saying that, oh, he finished a course with so-and-so grade. So trigger an independent credentialing service. And credentialing service has zero understanding of a teacher persona or a student persona, or it is an online training. Credentialing is credentialing. I can run the credentialing service for the whole country, for university certificate, skill certificate, the best student award, and one of our states are doing best teacher award, all using the microservice which happen to come free as part of this thing. While they are using it in Diksha, they're using it outside Diksha as an independent microservice to credential. So, you could, this is one of those things I think you were correctly saying that if you build the underlying infrastructure, you get way more than what an LMS can give you. I think that is very important to understand. Okay, that's all.
Claudia,
Feel free to translate. Now, this is a random, we'll randomly.
I will
This is like the Socratic method. You have to be ready. You don't know who I'm going to call on.
So you have to listen to.
Bueno, yo voy a tratar de resumirlo digamos, centrándome en estas 4 capas de contenido jerárquico que plantea Pramod, ¿no es cierto? Assets o activos, ¿no? Plantillas, contenido y colecciones. Los assets es como la unidad más básica de contenido, las imágenes, los iconos, los videos, el texto, etc. No PDF, qué sé yo. Las templetas son, digamos, tienes, o mejor dicho, las plantillas o template. Tienes una plantilla para credenciales, una plantilla para mostrar el contenido, una plantilla para, no sé, las pruebas, los exámenes, ¿no? Y luego tienes el contenido en sí mismo, que es la unidad de aprendizaje que usa un set de plantillas y de assets, de activos, ¿no? Y finalmente las colecciones, que es como un set de contenidos a elección, ¿no? Que finalmente es lo que puedes utilizar para hacer para enriquecer tu experiencia de usuario. Es decir, a través del uso de APIs de estos distintos niveles de capas de contenido jerárquico, tú puedes construir como journeys o como, digamos, viajes del usuario, como un storytelling del usuario donde vas incorporando los distintos elementos de contenido, ¿no? Entonces, por ejemplo, menciona el ejemplo de estos goals que crearon en Infosys, donde eran los objetivos o los goals de los docentes, que era una API que habían creado a nivel de colecciones, que juntaba estos distintos elementos y le permitía a los docentes llegar a estos goals. Eso es lo que puedo resumir. No sé si aquí te veo con cara de que hay algo más que tú podrías decir.
No, es perfecto. Pero solamente para la pregunta que tú hacías de los lessons plan, que justamente un lesson plan no existe per se, y sería esa conjunción de un lesson plan, sería estos que ha mencionado, el de colección de contenidos. Entonces ha hecho hincapié en que todo depende de la imaginación de cada uno de los equipos para crear, ¿no? Yo quiero crear lessons plan. Bueno, pues al final puede ser un conjunto de APIs de estos de collective, de colecciones, y yo lo nombro lesson plan. Entonces, bueno, hacer esa distinción, ¿no? De que depende de la imaginación de cada uno, el crear como los goals que tú has mencionado que creó Infosys, por ejemplo.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, just one pointer, collection can also contain other collection. So it's an infinite collection. So in our platform, you will see textbook or a book represented. Book is nothing but a collection. So it's so simple at the kernel. It's amazing what you can do with the fungibility of this architecture is very high. Okay, you can actually play with it quite a lot. So book is a collection, lesson plan is a collection. That answers your question about lesson plan. There's no hard-coded concept called lesson plan. Lesson plan is nothing but a collection. You assign to a teacher and you make sure collection contains teacher material, and that becomes a lesson plan, right? And it is attached to a book, so they're actually connected in the sense that this chapter has this lesson plan. So they're linked. Collection can be linked. That's why.
Okay, so where does the team, the technical team, can find documentation of that? We have a vast sea of documentation in Sunbird.
So I'm going to write down that specific one, specific to on lesson plan. I'll say find doc. And it also goes back to last time Nathan. I think Nathan asked the question. I think they had the thing that they want to use. I think probably Columbia had this, where the children are logging with Google and they wanted to use Google Drive, right? Okay, so in fact, Nathan loved the API of collection. I can tell you the kind of fungibility that collection API can give you. For example, my personal collection. A child can create my collection and like a playlist. You can simply use the same collection API, and in the UI, make sure that is the visibility of collection is to the child alone, or to a group, or to everyone. And so the collection can have visibility. Who can see the collection? And
I'm starting to imagine I'm starting to imagine one project that is inside this Peruduca 4 that is this set of artificial intelligence for recommending content to the teachers, and we obviously can use these layers for making this possible.
Absolutely, you can actually create a recommendation set, something called a recommendation set. Recommendation set can be just nothing but a collection. Collection is a collection of pointer to content. So you can actually randomly create a set called recommendation set and actually show it in the UI saying that this set is recommended for you. You know, you can do. And where do you get the data from? You use your telemetry as your input for running the ML, machine learning algorithms to determine. And by the way, the new module, this release or upcoming release, we have a module that actually uses ML to generate recommendations, basic recommendations for the learning. So we will even have sample code that actually you can pick it up and enhance. Okay. 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 So, sorry, can we use, now I'm going to go fast because some of the questions are easy. Can we use OpenWrap? Can we see offline a demo? Yes, we'll make it happen. So we'll give you pointers. Monica, if you're writing down, please write if you're awake. Okay, so please, you can note it down that our Namrata can provide some video and offline, how offline stuff works. At least they just want to see some video and how they can see it. Okay. Okay, and okay, so maybe I can move forward. Right? If I miss something, I'll come back. Costa Rica, which databases do you use? Was that a question?
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't.
Maybe you can explain how the microservices.
Yeah. So you know, each of the microservices. You're right. Each of the microservices are self-encapsulated. That means it is independent of everything else. And one microservice does one thing really well, and that microservice actually takes care of the storage behind. So it's sort of the architecture principle. But in Sunbird, if you want to look at the data stores that we use 2 or 3 types of data stores, right? So we use Neo4j, which is the graph database. So that is where the entire content and knowledge graph, it's a single knowledge graph of people, content, courses, collection, creating links. And as you were saying, if you run machine learning, you can create new edges. I'm going to use tech word. Do you know what's a graph, mathematical graph?
I just explain it.
Huh?
Explain it.
Okay. So a graph is nothing but a collect. This is okay?
I think so.
Okay. It's paper. So let's say we have lots of nodes, random nodes. It doesn't matter what nodes are. And edges.
No se ve nada. We cannot see anything what that you're drawing.
Okay. All right. Okay. I was trying to explain a mathematical, maybe black. I can try.
Black
or
brown.
Don't bring the black one.
Yes.
That's perfect. Yes.
Yeah. So let's say we have nodes. These are called nodes in a mathematical graph. So graph theory talks about if you can say these are cities, or you can say these are people, or people and cities. So this is person 1, this is person 2, this is person 3, this is city 1, city. Person lives in this city 2. Then you can create a relation between them. That's called a relation. That's called an edge in the graph. Okay. When you connect to nodes, it means there is some relation between this node and this node. That's all it means. This is a very generic structure of a mathematical graph. What you used to do in Sunbird, we use this mathematical graph structure, and Neo4j is a graph database that allows me to construct this graph with whatever nodes and edges we want. In the case of a learning system like Sunbird, we have users, content, right? So this could be content node, this could be a user node, This could be a collection node. This could be an asset node. This could be an organization node. And then we build relationship between them, saying that this content is seen by this user. This content is part of this collection. So if this content is part of this collection, you draw a line in between, and that's an edge. Both nodes and edges have attributes that describe what the node is. If it's a content node, it describes what is content ID, content name, what type of content it is. So each of these nodes and edges have additional attributes that you can describe. This is this is how Google search engines behind work. It's a massively connected knowledge graph. That now, this relationship can be static in the sense that I am telling you, I am Pramod Verma and I belong to this organization. So there's an organization node and the user node, and there's a line between us because I work for this organization. That's a static relationship. You could also create dynamic relationship. You could say this organization most used, top used, 5 used content in this organization is this content. And I can actually create from this organization another type of relationship or an edge saying that most used, works in company, content is part of. You can create all kinds of relationship. Think of our world is a graph, by the way. Our world around us is a graph. You can actually model everything in your graph, and people, houses, companies, people live in a house, work for a company, and that's how you build graphs, okay? That's what Google has done pretty much. That is why Google is able to answer your question even, and now what the advantage is, I can actually ask questions like, if I am a user, first-time user, to this organization, and suddenly there's a relationship with the organization to most used content node, I can suddenly recommend this user this content now. Because this user came in, this user belonged to this content, and most people in this organization seem to like this. So why don't you view it? I can actually see. This is called a graph traversal. I can navigate and travel along the graph to determine what you call a relationship that immediately didn't exist. It existed through a connection. I am a friend of him, and then he is a friend of other person, and hence there's a relationship. That's how our relationships work, right?
And I guess you can do the same with learning patterns.
Learning patterns, very much.
People deal with a new topic,
yeah,
and they may end up learning that it's easier to go to a video,
yeah,
and ask a friend rather than reading the whole piece of PDF before.
Correct. And you know, this is also probably a fundamental difference between Moodle. Moodle probably uses a traditional database to store the content, where we build everything into a knowledge graph. Because everything is knowledge at the end of the day, and organization, relationship. So I think the data structure vary fundamentally. Experiences may be very similar, user experience, and maybe Moodle user experience is even better because they've been there doing it very well. So these are all subtle differences. This is one type of database. This is a huge database that actually, if you have a million content, million user, all kinds of relationship, organization, you can actually model them. Okay, this is one data type. Then we have other types of databases. We have a text search engine. So to answer that question, so we use Elasticsearch as the text search data store. Then we use Cassandra. Cassandra is the key values KV store. It's called a key value store, data store. Given a key, it'll get you the value. It doesn't have anything else. And the value can be anything. You know, given Bob's ID, I can get Bob's profile, right? The whole profile can be stored against that. It's always a key value. It's always based on a key. That's how Cassandra works, okay? Very interesting key value. Key values are stored, AWS S3 is a key value store, if you want to understand that. And then we use all the actual content, heavy duty, archivable, in the sense that not archivable, heavy duty, long-term storage content, actual daily telemetry and so on. It goes into our blob store. It's called a blob store in Azure. In AWS, it is called S3. S3 is very, you must have heard S3, AWS S3. S3 is a store, very cheap. You can keep dumping data forever. And like you think of it like a massive folder. And you can keep adding folders and dates and folders. And you know, it's a massive bucket that gets replicated, stored. You don't have to worry about it at all. It's a long-term storage in one sense. So we store all our content and everything else telemetry there. So if you are in Azure, it's called blob store, and it is in S3, in AWS, it's called S3. But that's another data store. So that
How was I going to translate that?
Te toca a ti, Iñaki.
Whoever asked the question, I don't know if they have understood.
Pramod, can you please spell this S3 and blob store? What?
Yeah.
Please.
Blob.
Like Bob with an L.
Yeah.
Okay.
Blob with an L.
Blob store.
Blob.
Blob traditionally stands for binary large object. That's where blob came from. It's like not blog, it's blob.
Blob. Yeah. And
Yeah.
S3.
S3.
Okay.
Oh,
S3.
That's easy.
yeah.
Yeah, that was really easy.
They are exactly equivalent. In Azure cloud, it's called blob store, and it's in AWS, it's called S3. Amazon AWS is called S3. Okay, the next question.
Okay,
translate?
how are we going to translate this one?
I can start a little bit
okay.
because Carla was like asking for a confirmation about if you use traditional databases.
Yeah, we have a Postgre for user database. All the users and devices today use a registry going to an RDBMS, which is a traditional database.
Sí, que para los usuarios sí que usan una base de datos tradicional. Rápidamente ha explicado que como la arquitectura es de microservicios, cada microservicio encapsula sus propios datos y se encargan de esos datos. Y ellos usan 2 o 3 tipos de base de datos. Uno es el que ha puesto ahí el Neo 4J, que ha explicado un poco que el buscador de Google se basa un poco en esto, en una especie de knowledge graph, ha dicho, como gráfico de conocimiento. Entonces son nodos. Un nodo puede ser un usuario, un nodo puede ser un contenido, un nodo puede ser una institución, una organización y las relaciones entre los nodos. Entonces el usuario Iñaki tiene relación con el World Bank y con este curso específico que está dando. Entonces ha mencionado que eso es muy interesante porque puede ser relaciones estáticas, Iñaki y el World Bank, hasta que echen a Iñaki, pero eso es estático. Y dinámicas. Los mayores contenidos, el top 5 de contenidos en el campus del World Bank. Eso va modificando, entonces las posibilidades son muchas. Luego que también usan un motor de búsqueda de texto, Elasticsearch.
Yeah.
Y luego que también usan Cassandra, que básicamente ha dicho que necesitas una llave o una clave específica. Por ejemplo, yo introduzco el ID de Bob y la base de datos me da el perfil de Bob. Eso.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. Okay, so now, so do the next question there. Do we need to use Azure strictly? No, you don't need to use Azure. You can actually install pretty much our installation scripts may be Azure, but you know what, not installation, there are build scripts and so on. Some of them are probably easier on Azure. One of our partners, Ichalokam, runs on Google Cloud, and I think Infosys runs on AWS. Some of them run on internal data center. So Infosys also has made an internal non-cloud version of Sunbird. It's just a build. Core Sunbird software is cloud agnostic. I mean, it is not depending on any cloud at all. Okay, so you can actually use. But if you are in AWS, you can write and take advantage of AWS features. Okay, so that answers. Can AWS be used? Yes, answer yes. Okay, and
Maybe we can translate this very fast.
okay, I'm sure. Yeah, sorry.
Solamente que es el core, el núcleo de Sunbird, del software, es agnóstico al tipo de cloud usado. Entonces, que por ejemplo, Siska Loham, usa el de Google, que por supuesto sí se puede usar AWS, que incluso también, bueno, puede ser almacenado localmente, entonces que puede ser usado en cualquiera.
Okay, that was my answer. Okay, now the next set of questions, I think from Colombia, and so I think initial comment and Nathan's comment probably is that the installation of Sunbird to be simplified into few containers, not minimum containers. They are facing a little bit of an issue. I think it was a comment. And just to give you a sense, of course, India, because we are running it for Indian population, so we didn't bother creating a containerized version that can compress the installation. We have not yet done, but we are very actively Dockerizing, and we have a plan to Dockerize the entire system by December, and December through January release. Pretty much we're going to Dockerize a lot. Once you Dockerize, you can actually compress the installation footprint. So you can actually run it on a much smaller container. You don't need so many virtual machines, right? You can actually put everything into one VM, multiple containers. So we are on our way, but it is not an out-of-the-box priority for us because our scale is already 29 states, so it's really large for the country. But it's perfectly doable, and we can find out a way to collaborate on some tech to help you simplify. But again, we have to find I think Deepika and you and I, we can chat about how some of our tech partners who could potentially help, maybe one or two developers, if you can find some funds to engage them, it may not be bad. You can actually kickstart the simplification, the containerized simplification earlier than our timeline. You could actually pretty much do it today. And again, my request to you is that in case you are actually creating a simpler installation container, please open source those scripts as well, because I'm very sure your other countries, all of them are looking at not India scale, right? So they might be looking at much smaller scale. So that script will come in handy. So I just encourage you to all open source each other and help. So we can do that. We can find one of the partners to help. We just have to find some sort of small funding source for them, not for India, for them. Okay. But we ourselves are going to be containerized by December, January, so it's not so bad. I'll come back to that Teams question. Can we use our hosted Sunbird instance for 250 users? Technically, it's not a technical problem, but XStep is a not-for-profit entity, 30 people, really running to make our India platform go live for 350 million children. That's a lot of work on our head. In the middle, I would hate to come in the way of Colombia having technical issues, your daytime 250 people are accessing, portal is not responding, and suddenly, XStep team has to now deal with the production, even if it's 250 people, it's a commitment to 250 people. So I don't think XStep would want to be in the middle of that. That's my sort of honest opinion there. But I think let's figure out how we can make that happen for you, not by using it. Maybe we can very easy way to spin off an instance for Colombia, even if it's 250. And I think it may be a very small funding source issue. We just have to crack it once. I think it might come in handy. So Bob, I'd encourage you and Deepika, and I figure it out. This team, how creating a small instance of Sunbird should be fairly straightforward. Actually, we do it in a day boot camp, and developers come with laptops and literally spin it off. as you said, maybe an Azure free account plus some Microsoft can give you some credits or whatever. We should be able to find, instead of depending on Xstep to run a production instance, and it's not good. I think, it's not the right thing to do in the long run, because we are not for profit. We are not in the middle of all this here, right? So I encourage, but let's find a way. I understand where Colombia is coming from. And I think, given that Nathan and team are probably the deepest in Sunbird, I would hate to not support you. Okay, so we'll try to find a way. Can we use smart contracts in a way to do direct benefits transfer or direct transfer of money? Absolutely, perfectly doable. I think it is precisely the reason Sunbird differs from many close, solutioning systems. It's an infrastructure. You use telemetry in an asynchronous fashion to trigger a money flow or a certificate issuance flow or something else in the country. Yeah? And you could go across departments. You could say you take telemetry from here, a digitally signed telemetry, triggering a money transfer in a finance department, for example. And it's perfectly doable beyond the learning management system. And yes, your answer is correct. I think you have got the architecture really well. Is that yes, telemetry is the way to do, and that's the right thing to do. Is that you decouple the learning system from a payment system to a credentialing system by messaging between them. And that's where you create eventing. And that's why telemetry is nothing but an event emitting feature, right? Every system keeps emitting, it's like our body emitting fever or pulses, and the doctor can sort of see you and say, yeah. Instead of extracting, we emit. So if every system does that emitting through a common telemetry pipeline, you can do a lot of magic with two departments completely independently working. You can say, I learned here and I got money from here, and it's perfectly true. I think it's very good thought, and we'd love to see you pulling that off. I think it's very much doable. And we are doing that actually in the skilling. By the way, our skill ministry is using that concept in the viral skills to actually, and so people pay for it in the course, and when they complete successfully, they get the money back. So they're trying that actually. Yeah? Teacher training in schools, they're not doing because it's sort of free. I don't think teachers have to pay for it. I think Infosys did that as well. Infosys, their own platform has this payment model that you can subscribe to. Okay, they have integrated with an existing payment. And okay, so you can translate that, sorry. What do you have to translate? You have to translate two things. One, on the container that we are December, January, we are doing it. Yeah. But if somebody wants to do it early, we should find a way to engage a developer or somebody to help them.
Sí, bueno, esta era una pregunta que había hecho Nathan, o sea que Nathan lo ha entendido y Jorge, pero bueno, para el resto de equipos, esta parte de que Colombia estaba teniendo problemas con el peso de la instalación y los costes, ha explicado que entre diciembre y enero ellos van a trabajar en esta parte de containerización y simplificación de la instalación, que para ellos no es una prioridad top debido a la escala y que ya están presentes en 29 estados de India, creo, pero que van a trabajar en ello y van a intentar ver con el equipo de Colombia alguna forma de trabajar en esa dirección de simplificar y containerizar la instalación. Y lo que sí que ha pedido, que yo creo que es interesante, porque al final todo se trata de open source, que en caso de que el equipo de Colombia pues consiguiera simplificar esto, hacerlo público y libre, abierto para la comunidad, ¿no? Para payback de alguna manera. Bueno, luego la respuesta a Nathan.
Can we use Sunbird instance? That was a specific question. Can they use Sunbird, our instance?
Sí.
I told that we find a way to create an instance rather than
Sí, también Nathan había preguntado si se podía usar el instance de Sunbird para este proyecto de Colombia, que no iba a contar con más de unas 250 usuarios, y Promoda ha dicho que quizás esa no sea la manera de ir, pues debido a que ellos tienen ya mucha carga de trabajo y son una non-profit y demás, pero se ha mostrado dispuesto a a buscar alguna solución, que se puede crear una instance, porque de hecho en algún bootcamp lo han llegado a hacer en el día, entonces que bueno, que tenemos que tener conversaciones en ese sentido. A otra de las preguntas de Nathan sobre cuál es la manera de los smart contracts, de usar la telemetría para distribuir, ha dicho que sí, que la manera de ir es justamente esa, es separarlo todos los bloques y usar esas llamadas de unos a otros y usar la telemetría en lugar de extraer información, que cada sistema emita esa información, esa es la telemetría, y que, por ejemplo, el Ministerio de Competencias o Skills están haciendo algo así, alguien paga por un curso y luego si es exitoso le devuelven el dinero, y que Infosys también hizo algo así.
Okay, great, thank you. And question note, can we create a simple counter system for scoring during assessment? So, by the way, Sunbird, the new Sunbird, introduced an upgraded version of question markup language, QML, and that's an open spec. That is actually all our questions, question bank, are created in QML format now, and makes it easier. There's a microservice around it, so you can port questions, and you can make questions part of a collection, questions part of a content. They're all independent pieces of the puzzle. You can play with it. And during assessment, ideally, you want to do scoring asynchronously, unless you have to show the score right now to the child. So there are two requests, right? One is, I'm answering, did I get the answer right? And when I just finished my question paper, how much mark did I get? So if you have to do it inline, there is a way you can actually program that to do the counter. So there is a default counter in our player when you answer questions. So you can actually figure out 27 out of 30 was answered correctly and 3 were answered wrongly. But if you want more complex assessment, you should use telemetry. So there is an assess event. So telemetry has defined something called assess. So there's an assess event. And every assessment module and every question generates an assess event against that user, against that session, against that question, against that collection with all the tags. Behind the scene, using telemetry, now you can compute over the last 2 weeks, how many questions did you answer? What are the areas where you got it wrong and you got it right? So if you want to do an asynchronous evaluation of assessment, you use telemetry. If you want an inline simple scoring system, there's already a counter built in.
Sí, que la nueva versión sobre esta pregunta del scoring, de tener una puntuación y demás, que la nueva versión de Sunbird incluye open specs para preguntas, una especie de repositorio de preguntas en formato QML que facilita pues bueno, la llamada de APIs de estas preguntas y demás, y que puede hacerse bien de manera asíncrona, bien en línea. Si se quiere hacer en línea, para tener un feedback instantáneo de yo, Iñaki, he contestado bien 5 preguntas de 200, se puede hacer, y ya tiene, por definición, ya tiene un contador incluido. Y si se quiere hacer de manera asíncrona, para detrás del telón, digamos, hacer una evaluación de todas las preguntas que yo he ido contestando a lo largo de la semana, se tendría que usar esta telemetría en el que a mí me diría, pues he contestado a tantas preguntas, he fallado tantas, y se podría hacer esta computación de manera asíncrona fuera de línea usando la telemetría.
Okay, and the last question, I think, from Nathan. I kept it there because I don't think I understood the question fully, Nathan, is how to approach teams. You're not talking about Microsoft Teams product or anything, right?
No, we're talking
generally groups, user groups.
Yeah, so if we are all a team and do an activity together,
yeah,
how do we distinguish teams from individuals within the team?
Okay, so there are user group, concept of a user group, and a user role. So user group is what you use. So you can create random collection of groups, and that's how the courses are done today. Course, if you run a course and if you join a batch, afternoon batch, or whatever, right? And you get a cohort of students that learn that together. That group of students who are learning together can be created as a group. So the way we understand, think about it is a group microservice. You simply dynamically create a random collection of users into the group. Then you assign the group to a course. That means this group of, what is the meaning? This group of students are learning this course. That's what it means. So it's a relationship. It is not a hard assignment. So you can actually randomly create all kinds of cohorts. Cohort means in a group of users to do a homework, work together, project. I have a project and I want 5 students to come together to do a project. You can actually create a collection and run a project and assign a set of group of users to that. Whoever is subscribing to that project, either automatically subscribed or a teacher is assigning to you, right? Either way, you can create that. And that, you can pretty much quite flexibly create groups. Nathan, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and is it the same collection model where we could actually have groups within a cohort?
Yeah, I am not sure. Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure whether groups have groups inside that. I need to check. Okay, I'll check that.
There might be another way to facilitate it. The root of my question actually is, in Evoke, we have let's say 100 students who are forming in groups of 4 to create the best class project. And they complete a series of courses to the point where they submit their class project, and then that gets evaluated, and then they win, right? We might have multiple different competitions going on, if we think about it that way, where there's a cohort of 100 that are learning together, and then there's another cohort of 100 in another country. So
yeah, so that may not require group within group. I'm thinking that it is just, think of them like sets, mathematical sets, right? So set of users here, set of users there. There might be intersections there. So some user may be in both set, some user may be in both groups. So, but I'm not sure whether groups in turn, whether there is a hard, one of the things I've learned from my enterprise world is not to create hard groups and hierarchy of users. It's very old way of thinking. This is a difference between Outlook. I don't know how many people have used the old Outlook system. Maybe this is, I'm not sure. Okay. I mean the older days of Outlook. I have not used it recently. Outlook had something called folder. And Gmail completely went away from the concept of a folder and said everything is a label, right? So you're not hard assigning a folder. That means now I have to find where I put it. You can be in multiple folders. It doesn't matter. So labeling or tagging was an alternate to a way of folder view. Folder view was a very hard hierarchical folder view. You put it either here or here, right?
Oh, they are still there, I'm afraid to say.
Oh, they're still there. Okay. So
yep, perfect.
we took a label approach to user group. If you were to, the sort of philosophical why I went that way. Okay, Nathan.
Does that answer your question, Nathan?
100%. Perfect. Thank you.
So we've got 5 minutes left, and I think we're going to have a hard stop. Yeah.
And I think that Carla and the Costa Rican team, you have a question or clarification about the storing services on the cloud. Carla.
Hi, yes, the team still wants to know if it's possible to have a little space with Extend to make some pruebas. Como una instancia aparte para Costa Rica para hacer las pruebas.
Creo que es la misma, same as Colombia, no?
Yeah, I think.
Pero something smaller, I think, because it would just to start making some pruebas. Because they don't install at all. They already know that, but we can write an email later.
Deepika and team has been doing two things. One, create a Espanol instance, Spanish instance that you can play with. That from the user interface point of view, you can play with, in which you have enough features that you can add a course, you can add a content. But Nathan was going deeper and saying that no, the user interface and all that thing is good, but Evoke requires API level playing around, and he wanted to really play around with collection API and all that thing. So we gave API key, the program and developer key, API key to the same instance, Spanish instance. So Spanish instance has two things. If you are an end user, you can use the browser or a mobile app to play with it. If you're a developer, want to try it out, you can also get API key. But either way, I think Deepika has made it very clear that we do not want you to depend on Xstep for any production purposes. For a developer sandbox, I think we have given the API key to Nathan. We could give an API key to you as well. Not an issue, but not production. Production, we have to find some way to instantiate for you. And it might be as simple as one developer or half developer. So it may not be even costly. And developer in India is not that cheap, costly either. Yeah.
Okay, so we have 2 minutes left. I don't know whether you have any final thoughts. I mean, part of this is part of our process, which we had discussions with Xstep this week, where we're going bottom up and trying to really understand from a grassroots kind of what your needs are. We're also beginning to work with Xstep from kind of a top-down perspective of kind of how we can replicate these experiences. Because as Pramod said, with 30 people, we need to think strategically, and 5 people here at the bank, all working on different things. We need to think strategically about how we can kind of support you. So we'll be thinking about that, but we'll need your feedback too on kind of what are the key issues that you need to address. We'll continue to work with you on the project, Carla and Claudia, with Renata and Enrique to deepen this, but we need your feedback to know kind of what your issues are. And we need to think about a more scalable model to be able to kind of facilitate this support.
Yeah, and I love getting on calls like that, and we'll make it happen. I think fortnightly or something we are trying. No issue at all. Really happy. Frankly, I'm very, very happy that the engagement continues deeply, even after the workshop. Because sometimes what happens, workshops, the minister change, people change, secretary change, and half people go off. But I think all 3 of you, it's amazing to see the continued
Lost audio. Hello? Seems like maybe we lost Bob and his maybe his room reservation ran up.